anniversary of the invasion into Ukraine. And Mr. President, I can't find a good guy here. I don't trust Putin. I don't think he's a good guy. But I know, because I did a lot of work on your so-called impeachment and what was going on in Ukraine, that's wildly corrupt. And I don't trust our government. And I don't want to get into a war. And we are now we're close to losing the proxy part of this war. And it looks like we're headed towards something where we are going head to head. What is your take on this, and how do we stop this?
So it's a very interesting question, and I have a little more experience because I dealt with Zelensky. I made one phone call, and then I made a second call. These were two congratulatory calls, once when he won first phase one of the election and one when he won phase two. They were, as I say, perfect phone calls. I got unanimous in the House acquittal, unanimous from every single Republican. Now, you haven't seen that too often, but every single Republican voted to acquit or to say innocent, and that was a nice thing to see. The Republicans came together, but I got to know a lot and learn a lot about the country. Now, the country is considered extremely corrupt. In fact, we have a document that says you're supposed to report them, everything, but it is a very corrupt country. I happen to like Zelensky for one specific reason. When they asked him what I said, was he threatened? He acted as though it was a disgrace that they were doing this. He said, what did he do? He didn't do anything wrong. He just couldn't believe it, actually. It was just a con by Nancy Pelosi and the con artists. But Zelensky could have said, I felt threatened. I felt this. I felt that. Could have said that. And it would have been harder. We would have still won because it's still, fortunately we had this call taped in a way. It was taped by the people in government and in our government. And it was very lucky that it was, because we had all these people making up different stories, saying they were on the call. Probably they weren't even on the call, but they were liars. And when the tape came out, that was the end of their whole ploy. Then they went on to something new. But these are just terrible people. But Zelensky, as you remember very well, and it was quite beautiful, because I didn't know, I didn't know him. I congratulated him on a victory. But he came out and he said, absolutely, he didn't do anything wrong. He didn't even know what they were talking about, and he acted that way. So I really respected that, because he could have gotten some good political points, and I really respected that. And I like him.
Should we be sending more money, more arms? Now they're talking about planes. Should we be doing this?
Well, we're going to end up in World War III. That's one thing that's going to happen, and I've been sort of saying that for a long time now. Are you ready? Just in a very quick nutshell, this is a war that should have never happened. It would have never happened if I were in office. Zero chance of it happening. I used to speak to Putin about it, got along with Putin very well. Don't forget, I was tougher in Russia than anybody else. You're one of the people that face that. I ended their pipeline. I sanctioned them. I did so many, and yet I still got along with Putin. That's sort of a trick. That's a hard trick. It's a talented trick, but I got along with him. But nobody. I was the one that sent in the javelins. I sent in massive numbers of javelins, and Biden and Obama sent in pillows, and they sent in sheets.
I know.
In a very small number. But I gave them the javelins. When they wiped out those tanks, they wiped them out with the stuff I sent. Nobody was as tough. And the javelins was a big deal. But the biggest deal was I shut down the Nord Stream 2 pipeline that nobody even heard of until I came along.
So
I let people know about it. Nobody heard of it.
When you go to the Nord Stream pipeline, which you did shut down, Biden opened up. Now there's some reporting that says we blew it up. Biden did a covert mission and blew it up. Do you believe that?
Well, it could have been us, and it could have been Ukraine, and it could have been some third-party country that wants to see trouble. The one group it wasn't is Russia. They blame Russia for doing it. This is a main source of massive income to them. They didn't blow it up to make a point. That's the one thing I can tell you for sure. Remember when it first happened? They said Russia did it. Russia always says Russia. And I lived for years with that, where everything gets blamed on Russia, gets blamed on you. These people are sick, I'm telling you. But it could have been working in conjunction with Ukraine, because Ukraine has total dominance over the United States, total dominance. I mean, we've given them probably $150 billion, and Europe has given them almost nothing. And that bothers me. That really bothers me, because I had it out with them on NATO. You know, we were taking care of NATO. We were taking care of. I got $450 billion from the European nations from NATO. That's the other thing. Nobody was tougher on them, but then they still beat us on trade, because I had that just about stopped. You know, Europe is almost as bad as China on dealing on trade. They're very, very restrictive, very, very tough. They don't take our cars. They don't take our farm products, meaning much of. They don't do, they treat us with a lack of respect. Well, they were starting to respect us a lot and big, and we were straightening a lot of things out. But the saddest part about the war is that this is a war that should have never happened.
Correct.
Okay, so now it happened. Now you have to get people in the room. You have to knock heads, and you have to get it done. And that would mean saying things to Putin and saying things to Zelensky that they're not going to want to hear, and getting them into a room and getting it done. People are dying by the thousands. You know, Glenn, when I see the reports that they knocked down a city, these cities are being leveled. There's not a building standing in a lot of these cities. I've seen pictures that maybe other people don't get to see. Maybe they do. But or take a look at the newspaper. When they have a topographical picture of a city, there isn't one building standing. It's incredible. And then they say one person died and 3 people were injured. No. Many people died. Many people were badly injured, and we're not getting the true facts about what's happening in this war.
Let me ask you one more question, because I know you're on such a tight schedule. So let me just ask you one more question. China is now offering to negotiate the peace there, but the Chinese just